Well, hello, welcome again to our reading of Odyssey Book 4, and I got up to line 512, and here, once again, this long story of Menelaus speaking with the old man of the sea. And the old man of the sea has told poor Menelaus he's got to go back to the Nile and make sacrifices before he goes home. And then Menelaus probably unwisely asks for information about the rest of the Greeks, and he's being told a lot of the bad news. So it continues here, Sos depou ekfugekera sadelphios aedi hup aluxen en neusin glaphoresi. So the sos goes with the adelpheos, which is nominative. So with an epsilon here, in later Greek you just get adelphos. So your brother, well, perhaps the poo here isn't sort of in, not perchance because we know it happened, but perhaps in some way. For the poo here, ekfuge from ekfugo, he escaped, and I'm going to take the next bit firstly, and hoop aluxen from hoop alusso. He escaped out from under, so he avoided them. He avoided his keras, his doom, his fates. So your brother, i.e. that's Agamemnon, of course, in some way managed to escape and to avoid his doom, his fate, in the hollow ships. So Osi de Potnia Hera, and Hera, Lady Hera, saved him. So Osi. Later Greek you get sozo, you get this other form of the verb here, uncontracted, connected with that. So Lady Hera saved him. The gods always have to have some hand in these things. But when, now we get Tucker and Emele, which I think we have to take pretty closely together. And this is that mellow he was about to, and it takes a future infinitive, which is here, hiksesthai, from hic neomai. The root is hic, and so you get hiksesthai for the future infinitive. And taka in Homer means soon, so we probably take it closely with the emele and say when he was just about to come to, or to arrive at, the steep mountain of Malia. Now Malia is at the base of the Peloponnesus, which as commentators have said is an odd place for Agamemnon to be sailing to, and some have thought this is an interpolation. But of course the gods had been sending rather strange winds and knocking them off course, so it's probably not totally crazy that he ends up at Malia, at the base of the Peloponnesus, rather than higher up near modern-day Nafplio. Toti de min, and at that time, then, or indeed, a thuella. Thuella is a lovely Greek word. It means a blast, a very strong blast of wind, a very strong gust of wind. Sometimes there's that sense of a whirlwind. This is from Anharpazdo, having snatched him up. Pheren, imperfect from Pharaoh, began to carry him upon the fishy sea, upon the sea with all its fish. Ichthoenta, third declension adjective here. And then in apposition to min, we get the participle stenaconta, groaning. Baria is adverbial here, deeply, from baros, so a neuter plural, uncontracted. So at the time when he was just about to reach the steep mountain of Malia, at that time then a blast of wind, having snatched him up, began to carry him on the fishy sea as he was groaning deeply. And it took him, understood, to the Eskatiane agru. The Eskatia, Eskatos is the last, and Eskatia is here, well, it's really being used perhaps almost adjectively, to the last part of, to the end of, to the outermost edge of. It's often used in that sense. One of the cities founded by Alexander was called Alexandros Eskatos, an Alexandria at the end of the earth. Alexandria Eskate, I think it is actually. So it has that sense of the extreme part of, so the outermost edge. Agru, literally a field, but it's often used in the sense of a farm, cultivated land, perhaps the estate of Agamemnon. So to the outermost edge of the farm, perhaps, or of his estate. Hothi, where Thyestes, nigh imperfect, used to dwell in houses. Toprin, previously, this is adverbial here, Toprin, previously, so where Thyestes previously used to live in his house, but, ater, a very strong but, at that time, Aigisthos, the son of Thyestes, was dwelling. And the names are kept at the end of the line for emphasis. Both of these names were not very pleasant characters, of course, in Greek myth. Al-Hoti Dei kai ekathen ephina tynostos apamon. And at that time then, probably even for the kai, kathen, from there. It's like eke and then the then without the epsilon. So, and at that time then, even from there, a nostos, a return home, began to appear, a return home which was painless, which was without grief. We might say a safe return home began to appear. Upstethioi uron strepsan. Funny use of strepho here. It means to turn or to twist. So it's something like in the apsis, perhaps back or again. So the gods literally turned a fair wind back. So perhaps, or turned again a fair wind might be best here. So the gods then, we would say, sent again a fair wind. Kai oikadi hikonto. And they, that is Agamemnon and his men, they came oikadi to his home. So we'd simply say, and they arrived home. Aitoi homen chiron epibaesatop patridos is. Aitoi, don't forget the particles, try and get something out of them. So it's something like surely, indeed, he, indeed, he, epibaesatop from epibino, he set foot upon, he stepped upon, so he set foot upon his ancestral land, Chiron rejoicing. He was very pleased to be home. Kai kune haptomenos hein patrida. And touching his ancestral land, again personal adjective here for the hein, patris is feminine, so you've got to put it into the feminine case, but it is his. So touching his ancestral land. Kune, the verb is kuneo, and so this is an imperfect without augment, as you can see from the accent here as well. That helps a bit. So it's really kun and then you get a contraction, but there's no augment. So he began to kiss it. So touching his ancestral land, he began to kiss it. Pola dap autu dakrua therma kiont. And either pola either goes with the dakrua or could be adverbial. So soft tears were pouring muchly from him, if you want to take it adverbially. When Ida he saw his country, when he saw his land, spasios, adverb, happily, it's connected with aspasdomai in later Greek, which means to greet. So he's very pleased to be home. So when he saw happily his land, Gaian. Now, we had a men up here, and there was a det here, which could go with that men. And one wonders whether perhaps the men is balanced here by the det. So on the one hand, he's very happy, but there's more to come. Sometimes the mens and debts do get separated by a bit, and you do get an intervening det, which doesn't necessarily go with the nearest men. But anyway, I think perhaps that det might balance the men here. So, but a skopos, a watchman, Ade saw him apot Skopias. This is from Skopia. It's the watchtower. It's the place of watching. So you could say the watchtower here. So from his place of watching, from the watchtower, whom, as you might expect with the arrow, Aigisthos Dolomatis, who is wily minded, plotting in his mind Dolon. So wily minded Aigisthos. Kath Hasen is from Kath Hesdomai, and it means to cause to sit, and hence perhaps posted here. So whom wily minded Aigisthos, leading him up there, had posted. Hupodescator misthon crusu doya talanta. This is, well, it's hupo plus echo. There is a verb later, hup iskneamai, to promise. Here this may be just hup echo, to undertake, but the meanings are pretty close anyway. So he undertook, understand, to give, or perhaps he promised as a reward 2 talents of gold. Now, of course, it's these lines in Homer that Aischylus uses at the beginning of his wonderful play, the Agamemnon, which of course begins with this Skopos sitting there keeping a watch out and telling everyone how long he's been there and how uncomfortable it is, and then suddenly he sees the beacon sign. There's no mention of the beacon, I don't think, here, but that's continued. That's perhaps part of a later tradition. But these are the lines that were behind the beginnings of Aeschylus's Agamemnon. Fulas de hot ge ace eniauton. For he, get is important here, in fact, had been keeping guard, was keeping guard. So he was keeping guard, ace eniauton, for a year. May, lest. Now we get lathoi, parion is participle. Lathoi is an aorist optative from lanthano. There's change of subject, or the subject here is Agamemnon, I think, and both here and in the next verb. So it's lest he, Agamemnon, turning up, being present, might escape the notice of him, that is, the Skopos. So lest, it could also, of course, refer to Aigisthos, which is quite possible. So lest turning up, lest being present, he might escape his notice. And this is a funny little clause here, something like he might call to mind, and it takes a genitive, his impetuous valour. He might call to mind his impetuous valour. Now it may be in the sense of he's trying to catch Agamemnon off guard, and so this may be the reason this little sentence is shoved in here. So he wants to catch Agamemnon off his guard before he realizes what's happened, and hence he puts this skopos here. So I think the het possibly now refers to Aigisthos. So lest being present, Agamemnon might escape his notice, and that Agamemnon might call to mind his impetuous valour, i.e., before Aigisthos can kill him. Beidimin angeleon prostomata poimeni laon. Now the subject goes back now to the skopos, to the watchman. So he went imen, infinitive from Amy Ibo, with just the I root and then the infinitive. So he went off. Angeleon, there's a sigma dropped out here. You can see there's only one lambda, so this is a future participle with the intention of reporting. Perhaps I've got to take the prosdomata first. So he went off to the house, to the houses literally, with the intention of giving a report to the shepherd of the people, poimeni laon, i.e. Aigisthos. Autika, and forthwith, immediately, Aigisthos, ephraseto doliain technain. He devised a guileful scheme, technain, or plan or plot. So Aigisthos immediately devised a guileful plot. Krinamenos, now this is from Krino in the middle, and it has the sense of to choose in Homer. That's a not uncommon use of Krino in the middle in Homer. So it's an aorist middle participle, having chosen eikosi, 20 men who were the best, 20 of the best men, katadamon, about the land. Hese, from Hisdo, he set a lock-on, he set a snare or a, what do you call it, an ambush. So he laid down an ambush. Heterothi de anogidaita penesthai. The heterothi is a little bit funny. It means from another place, or in another place, perhaps another part of the palace or something here. So, but in another place, in another part of the palace, enoge, he bid, he gave orders, and this is the past tense of enoga, so it's pluperfect in form, but imperfect in meaning, or just past tense in meaning. So another part of the palace, he gave orders, penesthai, to prepare, to make a data, a feast. Auta hotbe kaleon Agamemnoni. But he went off. Kaleon could be simply a present participle. There might have been a lost sigma here, meaning it's a future participle, but whatever here, it's something like he went off inviting. Kaleo can often have that sense of inviting Agamemnon, shepherd of the people, along with his horses and his chariots, or with horses and chariots. Now that may refer to Aigisthos, so he's going off with horses and chariots, that is to bring Agamemnon back to the feast. So I think these are referred to the horses and chariots that belong to Aigisthos. It could refer to horses and chariots belonging to Agamemnon, that's also possible. I'm not sure what the commentators say here. So he went inviting Agamemnon, shepherd of the people, I'll just say with horses and with chariots. This is an old dative plural spin ending. It's an old, perhaps instrumental ending, the spin. Aikia murmurisdone. Murmurisdone is to ponder. So pondering, or planning, or scheming almost here, shameful things. I think the old translation was his mind pondering a dastardly deed. Ton dut edot olethron ananagagon, and he brought him up, we'd say brought him back, and I think that's why you've got the horses and the chariots. He brought him back, and in opposition to the ton, he not realizing, not his own destruction, not literally not knowing his destruction, not realizing he was going to be killed. kai kat epiphne de nisas, and having given him supper, kat epiphne, this is a strange form here, it's a, believe it or not, an aorist. It's a reduplicated and then augmented as well, aorist from, the verb is katapheno, which is a verb which doesn't actually occur, but the root phen is from pheno, and this is a compound katapheno, just to kill. So having given him supper, he killed him as someone. Now the tet here is this generalizing tet, which you get very commonly in Homer, can't translate it. It's used in generalized statements. It's just one of those lovely little particles which adds a little bit of extra flavour to the line, but it can't really get it into English very well. So as someone kills, it's probably a nomic aorist here, as someone kills an ox at the fatne, at the stable, in its stall. This is the same word used in the Gospels for the stable, for the where Jesus is born. In the manger is the word I'm looking for. Fatne often translated in later Greek as manger. Here it's just the stall. So as someone, we could get the te in might kill, but it's not actually a subjunctive. As someone kills an ox at the stall, nor did nor was any of the heteron, the iota has been dropped out to get a short syllable. This is from heteros. So neither did any of the comrades of the son of Atreus, nor was any of them left, those who followed him. So this is the relative pronoun, this is the auto, hoi for auto, dative after hepamai. So nor was any of the comrades of son of Atreus left behind who followed him, nor tis Aigisthos, that is, nor any understand of the comrades of Aigisthos. He did not want any witnesses on either side to what he'd done. But ektathen, they were killed in the halls. Ektathen is a third person plural. We've seen this before, this then for thesan, and it's from katano. So it's a slightly irregular form here. So they were killed in the halls. And thus he spoke, but my dear heart for me indeed, kataklaste, was smashed to pieces. This is from kataklasto. We had that in the previous section where poor old Menelaus' heart was smashed to pieces when he heard he had to go back to the Nile, and now he's heard his brother's been slaughtered by Aigisthos, and his heart again is totally destroyed, from kataklasto. It's connected with our word cataclysm, I think, sort of similar, but from kataklasto is the verb here. And I began, so sitting in the sand, I began to weep, imperfect. Nor was my heart for me, nor did my heart for me wish to live any longer, and to see, we would say nor, and to see the light of the sun. And so we'll leave poor Menelaus here and continue this in the next recording.